after the new cabinet swearing-in ceremony at State House in Chamwino, Dodoma. Here's a report by Halfani Binde, read to you by Kanki Maigomole.
It took about 1 hour and 40 minutes for 27 ministers and 29 deputy ministers to take their oath in front of President Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, ready to serve the country. The ministers include old and new faces, all being sworn in. In a speech, President Samia Suluhu Hassan directs the newly sworn-in ministers and deputy ministers to work hard and ensure implementations of various projects and maximize domestic resource mobilization.
Kubwa zaidi. Awamu ya pili, muhula wa pili wa awamu ya sita.
We will start implementing the projects ourselves, and then the agencies will find us along the way. We will move with them. We will not sit and wait. We have been selling projects, going around pleading. A project is accepted, but they say, go and make corrections. Instead of getting approval, in 3 or 4 months, we take a whole year begging for just one project. By the time approval comes, it is already 2 years. In our term, we will not wait for that. We will start with our own domestic funds, and when they are done with the objections, they will join us halfway. We have agreed on that.
Regarding what she has promised to deliver in the first 100 days, she stresses on the need for the ministers to play their part in making the expected results a reality.
So all of you who have taken the oath here, whose 100-day pledges touch on your ministries, your permanent secretaries have not changed. They are there. Sit with them and work on those promises, implement them and sustain them. I do not want excuses. I want results. Results for the citizens within the time frame that we'll agree on.
Impact.
Then she emphasizes that her government will continue to make changes till it finds the ones who fit best with her speed.
I have no problem making changes, and you know me. At some point, you even say that I changed too much, and I said yes. I'll keep on changing until I get the one who will work with me wholeheartedly and in full unity.
Some of the new ministers expressed their work ahead of them, insisting on putting the interests of the nation first.
There are many conflicts between livestock keepers and farmers. Each one is clinging to a piece of land to carry out their own economic activities. Yet all of them are Tanzanians who can use that sector for development, and what we all want is for them to live without conflicts.
I, Juma
Aweso, have been entrusted with the water ministry. I will not be hindrance. What people need is water. Our country, Tanzania, is not poor in water sources. So the main thing is for people to get clean and safe water services. And above all, we are going to oversee the issue of the national grid.
The UN resident coordinator in South Africa, Nelson Mufo, says partnerships across the continent have expanded significantly over the years, a shift that is now driving stronger implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. As a result, the volume of goods traded among African nations continue to rise. Speaking in an exclusive interview with TBC News on the sidelines of the South Africa Business Initiative for Impact, a preliminary event towards the B20 summit, Mufo revealed that intra-Africa trade has grown by 12% over the past 2 years. He has applauded this progress but urged key stakeholders to deepen collaboration to sustain the momentum. Faida Ngaga reports from Johannesburg, South Africa.
As Africa pushes to strengthen its economic integration, partnerships across the continent are proving more crucial than ever. And new data shows these collaborations are already reshaping the flow of trade among African nations. To build on this progress, the AfCFTA Secretariat underscores its central role in creating a unified market, removing barriers, and ensuring that African businesses can trade more efficiently across borders.
The Secretariat complement what countries are doing at national level. Many countries on the continent do have export promotion strategies. They do have export facilitation mechanisms that they have at country level or regional level. And so we, by opening the market access, by opening new markets, we complement that national level effort for export promotion. And so we have to be very cautious not to exceed into the mandate of national governments.
Furthermore, the resident coordinator of UN in South Africa highlights the steps that African countries have made due to enhanced collaboration, and he urges media and other stakeholders to support in amplifying these steps so far.
The amount of goods also that are being traded already is increasing. And if you look at even the amount of trade volume, intra-African trade volume, over the last 2 years, there's been almost a 12% to 13% increase. So that's significant. And what is now happening in terms of the tariffs issues globally, African countries now have a moment, as we also heard today, to accelerate how they collaborate and how they trade with each other, what they buy from each other is also really important now. So now is the time to really, again, rally around and increase our speed.
Ultimately, the steady rise in intra-Africa trade signals a continent moving with purpose. And with stronger partnerships, the AfCFTA's promise of a more connected, self-reliant Africa comes into even sharper focus. Faida Ngaga, TBC News, Johannesburg, South Africa.
For the first time, an African country hosts the G20 Leaders Summit. South Africa convenes the meeting in Johannesburg from this November, and the country also hosts the G20 presidency from December 2024 through November 2025. To discuss more on this key meeting, I am joined in the studio live with Novatus Igosha, who is a political analyst and advocate of the High Court. Mr. Igosha, welcome.
Thank you very much.
As South Africa prepares to host the G20 Leaders Summit, what does this hold, or what difference what will it make for Africa to host it for the very first time?
That's a very good and profound question to speak, because recently Africa has been very intentional to find its voice on the global stage, because in the past decades we had been having a very narrow representation. So hosting the G20 in South Africa is both symbolic and strategic, because South Africa has been very intentional to be part of the African representation in this powerful economic global forum, because you don't only make Africa be considered on the periphery, but become central to the global economy. And therefore, by being the presidency of the G20 and bringing the agenda to Africa, it has pushed topics like poverty alleviation, debt treatment into the really core, the so-called solution countries and, of course, problem countries. But commitment and mutual agreements between the members of the G20 is the problem, because sometimes you find difficult in reaching consensus, and sometimes you find boycotts in these summits. But at the end of the day, as far as it has come to Africa, it gives symbolism and diplomatic legitimacy to the rest of the world that right now Africa needs representation. Right now Africa is valuable, and right now Africa is very intentional for its interests.
Okay, we have the new debt refinancing plan for low-income countries. How likely is it to succeed after the upcoming G20 summit?
It's technically realistic, but politically very complex, because as aforementioned, this is a club of different countries. And recently there has been a panel of experts that have suggested that there should be a rescheduling of the solution from a slow pace of refinancing to much more proactive, and the use of the IMF's drawing rights. But how much that's going to be agreeable, it really depends on the consensus on the ground. However, I do believe that as far as capacity building is going to be built in African institutions, and the ability to have people that are technocrats to be able to build this kind of narratives at home before they go on the global stage, there could be a possibility. But having the African Union also coming in as a permanent representative, we are going to have a very high level of commitment. But at the end of the day, it's a question of the haves and the have-nots and how they bridge that gap to have common partnerships.
Yes. The meeting also underscores collaboration, interaction, partnerships. How likely is this mission to succeed seemingly in a divided world?
Again, here I have to be very candid. It's a very fractious times, so to speak, on the world stage. And there are rival blocs in the G20, each with its own narratives, with its own agenda. At the same time, you are having people that are demonstrating with the different ideologies, sometimes students, sometimes NGOs coming into the summits. But the only way that the G20 has continued to endure is because on international relations, when there are disagreements, you find a common room of mutual understanding. And out of that mutual understanding, you find terms that you can be able to agree with. But how likely that is going to be possible, it's until leaders show commitment that there are scores that are beneficial to us all. For example, debt relief and climate security, at the same time pandemic preparedness. And if they understand as far as domestic issue at home has a mutual understanding on the world stage, there could be a possibility of political agreement on the global forum.
Okay, apart from the aspect now of mutual understanding, G20 plays a key role in shaping and strengthening global architecture and governance on major international sites as well. Why is Africa left out? Only South Africa and AU are members. Why?
Well, I understand the frustration, I hear the urgency. But historically, we have to remember that the G20 was modeled on the economic map of the 20th century, where Africa had been colonized, where Africa was polarized in the former Cold War between the Soviet Union and the Western Bloc, and we were very much unrepresented. And to be very sincere, it's a club of very powerful economic members. It's not something that you are given as a moral legitimacy. You need to have a very powerful GDP. You need to show mutual capacity and the ability to project that power on the world stage. Now, that narrative is changing. Africa is trying to integrate its economies. Africa is trying to have more coordinated trade relations within the continent. But how far can that be successful? It really depends on institutional capacity at home, commitment of leaders, and of course, changing the status quo in the politics and building this capacity to have uniformed policies at home. Now, in order for us to be respected at that kind of forum, I think it's a question of merits. Merits in terms of economic growth, economic development, and the kind of people that you take on the world stage to represent you. As far as right now, we have South Africa there, and the African Union also has come as a permanent representative. I think there could be a commitment on finding mutual agreements with the northern countries and, of course, the so-called solution powers and other nations that are considered as problem countries. But at the end of the day, it's a multilateral body that needs to find a common agenda, and Africa is coming on the stage in piecemeal, but it's a voice that I believe we can have a mutual success in the near future.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Igosha.
I appreciate being here.
And on to the next news. The President of Zanzibar and Chairman of the Revolutionary Council, Dr. Hussein Ali Mwinyi, has visited the Zanzibar Sports City Complex in Fumba to inspect the construction progress that has been done so far. During the visit, Dr. Mwinyi was accompanied by the new Minister of Information, Arts, Culture and Sports, Riziki Pembe Juma, and Deputy Minister Ali Abdul Ghalam Hussein. The football stadium, with a capacity to hold 36,500 fans, is expected to be used for the AFCON tournament, to be held in 2027, along with other 2 sports stadiums, one of which will be used for national activities. The project is another proof of the Zanzibar Revolutionary Government's commitment to improve sports infrastructure in the country and is expected to be completed in December 2026. In other news, African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption is meeting in Arusha for the 50th Ordinary Board Session, aiming at reinvigorating the board's mandate to foster transparency, accountability, and integrity across the continent. Lack of ethics and integrity has been identified as one of the main causes of corruption in African countries, leading to setbacks in various sectors and undermining justice. To explore more on the board's role and the magnitude of the problem, my colleague Esther Dale spoke with the chairman of the board, Kwame Edem Senanu.
Thank you so much, Teddy Impala Nyanga. And today on TVC News, we are joined by the chairperson of the African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption, Honorable Kwame Edem Senanu. Honorable, welcome to TVC News today.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Good evening. So the African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption, AUABC, is the premier continental organ established under Article 22 of the African Union Convention on Combating Corruption. So as you convene the 5th conference here in Arusha, what key milestone and concrete achievement would you highlight from the previous 49 conferences held across Africa?
Well, thank you. Let me state for the record that this is the 50th Ordinary Board Session. Tanzania happens to be the host country, and we are delighted to be here. So from its inception, the headquarters of the AUABC, us as the partner in the AU, has been the country that said they will host us. And so all of those sessions have been held here in Arusha, Tanzania. Now, over the course of the 49 to the 50, what we'll say is our lifetime, for about 22 years, there are probably about 4 key areas where we have had impact. One is the building of key institutions. As you know, the African Union Convention on Combating and Preventing Corruption highlights the need to establish national anti-corruption agencies. And so in the countries, we had 49 to 50 member states of this continent that have signed up. Most of them at the moment have developed anti-corruption institutions. And in Tanzania, we have the PCCB.
Why corruption is still the big elephant in the room, despite all those strong legal framework institutions, as you highlighted the milestone you've made in the previous 49 conferences held across Africa?
Well, because the enforcement of law is one of the major challenges. Laws exist in many countries, but the political elite find ways of ensuring that those laws do not influence them. One of the ways could be that the appointment of who is in charge of the national anti-corruption agencies, who is in charge of the what we call the judiciary. They may position persons there who have an affiliation with them and therefore are not interested in arresting them. So there's a case, but the case is thrown out. So enforcement is one of the challenges. Resourcing of these anti-corruption agencies is a challenge. A culture of integrity, honesty, ethical values is also a challenge.
Africa expect from this 5th conference, as we mark this 5th conference here in Arusha, what should Africans realistically expect? Are there specific resolution mechanisms or actions, plans that you believe can bring more lasting remedy against corruption across Africa?
Well, this is the ordinary board session, not as much as a conference. Last week we had the annual African anti-corruption dialogue with over 220 participants, where we looked at issues. We're looking at human dignity in the fight against corruption. One of the things that has come out of that is the fact that for next year, our theme will be looking at upscaling the promotion of integrity in the anti-corruption actions we take across the continent. That's important. We think that ethics and integrity is where we are missing it. If as Africans, we'll continue to nurture very strongly individuals with core values of ethics and integrity, we'll find that this fight will be much easier to deal with. At the end of the 6-day period where we are having our ordinary board session, we're looking at new strategies we can deploy. And I'm quite sure that some of those areas will involve digital tools, will involve ensuring that the youth are at the forefront of this fight. And then we need to hold hands.
Let's shift to technology. How can technology be a game changer as a savior in fighting against corruption in Africa?
Well, the evidence is clear that the places where you have a lot more human interface, human interventions, is where you lose a lot of money. Corruption happens because there are human people who are trying to find ways and means of taking away resources that don't belong to them. So when we have digital interfaces, when we replace the human interfaces with digital interfaces that can play the same role, then you minimize the opportunity for graft to occur. And so digitalization is one of the best strategies in trying to curb the nemesis of corruption that we face as a continent.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kwame. Back to you, Teddy Mparanyanga.
Thank you very much, Esther Deus. And now on the next news, the government, in collaboration with the International Labour Organization and the Workers' Union CHODAO, have teamed up to offer skills development to domestic workers, aiming to improve working conditions and ensure their rights and responsibilities are protected. Speaking in Arusha, the coordinator of the Domestic Workers Desk from the Prime Minister's office, Halima Sufyan, says the program is among the government's plans towards ratifying the International ILO Convention number 189 that aims to recognize and protect the rights of domestic workers. Here's a report by Sachalala Kongola, read to you by Kanki Magomole.
Domestic workers from 6 regions in the country are here to acquire new skills and undergo training to understand better their rights, responsibilities, and entitlements.
It is very difficult to defend someone who does not understand who they are. That is why we have been giving continuous education to ensure that you become self-aware.
By the time you leave here, you will understand employment standards, you will also learn labor laws, and we have also included a course on entrepreneurship.
Some of the domestic workers describe the program as a game changer that will transform their working skills and conditions.
Let me give you an example. Someone leaves Kigoma and goes to work in Dar es Salaam. When they arrive, they are locked inside a compound and go through many hardships, making it difficult for us to reach them. Today, I'm grateful that the International Labour Organization, ILO, has come to train us.
You'll find someone doing the work of 4 or 5 people without realizing it. When you receive education on how to organize your duties, that is when we want society to understand and for your salary to be recognized.
The program aims to ensure that domestic work protects dignity, complies with the law, and contributes to the social development.
Why did we establish this desk or this project? Because although the sector exists and the law recognizes it, society has not yet understood that these are workers just like any other worker. So that you can also train others, because you have your groups, your associations, and your friends. We cannot reach everyone.
Secretary General of the Trade Union Confederation, Saidi Wamba, emphasizes the importance of skills development for the domestic workers.
Kwa sababu kuna udhaifu mkubwa sana miongoni mwa wafanyakazi wa majumbani wenyewe.
Because there is a major weakness among domestic workers. They lack confidence and self-acceptance.
And before we wind up our local news tonight, let us now take a look at today's exchange rates according to the Bank of Tanzania, BOT. Don't miss TBC News every weekday to know all the latest in exchange rates. Sports news up next. And in sports news, Tanzanian clubs preparing for the tough competitions of the CAF African Champions League and CAF Confederation Cup have been urged to organize themselves well in order to succeed in their initial group stage matches, which kick off this weekend across Africa. Speaking at the launch of the football festive season held in Dar es Salaam, analysts Geoffrey Leah and Nazareth Upete say there will be no easy games in the opening fixtures, as the teams are set to face are strong and well prepared.
Tanzanian clubs approach their groups as underdogs because we've been paired, our clubs have been paired in very tough groups. A club like Young Africans being paired by former champions Al Ahly, Asfar Rabat and JS Kabylie. It's not going to be an easy thing for them to get out safely out of this group. For anybody that remembers what happened last season, Yanga were paired in a group that had Al Hilal, TP Mazembe, as well as MC Alger, and everybody remembers how that story ended with elimination at the group stages.
The northern teams has always been better. Whenever they need a certain kind of results, like we need a single point, they can get it. You see, last season, Young Africans were eliminated in group stages with the MC Algers. One of the, I think it was not recognized as biggest teams to face, but it came out to be different with experienced players like Ayub Ghazala in the central defense.
Young Africans face as far off Morocco at the New Aman complex in Zanzibar in a Group B match, while their arch rivals Simba welcome Petro Atletico of Angola at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Dar es Salaam in a Group D fixture of the African Champions League. In the Confederation Cup, Group B action will see AS Maniema Union of DRC Congo hosting Azam FC, while in Group C, CR Belouizdad of Algeria take on Singida Black Stars. That is sports news. Before we conclude the news bulletin for tonight, let's take a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
Everyone, welcome to you and thank you for joining us. This is 24 hours of the forecast from Tanzania Meteorological Authority, starting from tonight, 9 p.m. For tonight, the entire country is expected to be dry, and wind is expected to flow at the speed of 30 kilometers per hour over Lake Victoria Basin and Lake Tanganyika. For Lake Rukwa and Lake Nyasa, wind is expected to flow at the speed of 20 kilometers per hour. The state of the lake is expected to be slight to moderate. For the entire coast, wind is expected to flow at the speed of 20 kilometers per hour. And the state of the sea is expected to be slight. Now let us see of the weather details, and this is what we expect for tomorrow. Over Lake Victoria Basin and western parts of the country, we expect part cold condition, thundershowers over areas and sun periods. For Arusha, Kilimanjaro, Tanga, Pemba and Unguja Isles, Dar es Salaam, and Pwani including Mafia Isles, we expect part cold condition, light rain showers over areas and sun periods. And for the remaining parts of the country, we expect part cold condition and sun periods. Now let us take a look at the next 4 days weather forecast. For Dar es Salaam, we expect rain showers and light rain. Dodoma, we expect rain showers, thunder showers, and light rain on 23rd of November. For Mbeya, we expect thunder showers. Mwanza, we expect thunder showers. For Kilimanjaro, we expect light rain. Over Morogoro region, we expect rain showers and light rain. Arusha, we expect light rain. That's all for today. Make sure to catch up again tomorrow. From Tanzania Meteorological Authority, my name is Maria Fares. Bye-bye.
And that marks the end of our news bulletin for tonight. Do not miss our next bulletin in Kiswahili at 11 p.m. On behalf of the whole team, I am Teddy Mparanyanga. Have a lovely, lovely night.